My son gave me 15 slaps across the face in front of his wife to impress her. 15, each one harder than the last, while she laughed and encouraged him. "Show your mother who's boss," she said with that venomous smile. I stood there, my face burning, tasting blood in my mouth, feeling my dignity crumble with each strike. My own son, the boy I raised alone, sacrificed everything for, worked 3 jobs to put through college. And there he was, hitting me like I was nothing, like I was garbage in his own home. The home I helped him buy. But what he didn't know, what neither of them knew, was that the house where he humiliated me so brutally wasn't really his. Not legally. Not on paper. And while he was at work, feeling proud of himself for putting his old mother in her place, I was making a phone call that would change everything. Sometimes the people who think they have all the power are the ones who know the least about their own situation. Would you have done what I did? If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give it a thumbs up, and comment what you would do in this situation. Main script exactly 50,000 characters. I never imagined I would be sitting in a lawyer's office at 62 years old, my face still swollen and bruised, explaining to a stranger how my own son had beaten me. But life has a way of taking us to places we never thought we would go. My hands trembled as I held the ice pack against my cheek, the cold doing little to numb the pain that went far deeper than my physical injuries. Let me start from the beginning, because you need to understand how I got here. You need to know who I was before that terrible day, and who my son used to be before she came into his life. I raised my boy alone from the time he was 3 years old. His father left us with nothing but debt and broken promises. I worked as a seamstress during the day, cleaned offices at night, and sold homemade food on weekends. There were times when I ate plain rice so he could have meat on his plate, times when I wore the same patched dress for years so he could have new school uniforms. I never complained. That's what mothers do. We sacrifice without counting the cost. My son was a good boy, respectful, hardworking, grateful. He studied hard, got a scholarship to university, and eventually landed a prestigious job at a large firm. I was so proud. Every sacrifice had been worth it. He would have the life I never had, the opportunities I could only dream of. When he was 28, he met her, Miranda. From the first moment I saw her, something in my gut told me to be careful. She was beautiful, polished, came from money. But there was something cold in her eyes, something calculating in the way she looked at my son and then at me, as if measuring and finding me lacking. "Mom, Miranda and I are getting serious," he told me one Sunday afternoon. "I think she's the one." I tried to be happy for him. I really did. But as the months passed, I watched my son change. The boy who used to call me every day started calling once a week, then once a month. The son who used to visit me every Sunday with groceries and jokes suddenly was always too busy. Miranda needed him for this. Miranda wanted to do that. When they got engaged, I offered to help with the wedding. I had been saving money for years, a little nest egg I had built penny by penny. "Mom, that's not necessary," he said, but his voice was strained. "Miranda's family is handling everything." What he meant was that I wasn't good enough, wasn't sophisticated enough for the wedding they had planned. I went to that wedding and felt like a stranger. I sat in the back, wearing my best dress that still looked shabby compared to everyone else. Miranda's mother didn't even acknowledge me. During the reception, when the DJ asked for the mother-son dance, Miranda whispered something in my son's ear, and he shook his head. There was no dance. No acknowledgement. I left early, my heart breaking. After the wedding, things got worse. They moved into a small apartment, and my son complained constantly about money. Despite his good job, Miranda's expensive tastes were draining their savings. She wanted designer clothes, fancy restaurants, luxury vacations. My son looked tired all the time, stressed. "Why don't you talk to her?" I suggested gently during one of his rare visits. "Maybe you two could budget better." His face hardened. "Miranda knows what she's doing, Mom. She comes from a successful family. They understand money better than we ever did." That hurt. We, as if our years of survival, of making every penny stretch, of building something from nothing, counted for nothing compared to her family's wealth. Then came the day that changed everything. Or so I thought at the time. My son called me, his voice urgent. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." We met at a coffee shop. He looked nervous, kept fidgeting with his cup. "Mom, Miranda and I found a house. It's perfect. 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood, great schools for when we have kids. But we're short on the down payment." My heart sank. I knew what was coming. "How much do you need?" $50,000. The number hung in the air between us. $50,000. It was everything I had saved, my entire life's savings. Money I had put away for emergencies, for my old age, for the medical care I might need someday. "That's everything I have," I whispered. "I know, Mom, and I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. But this is my future. Our future. When we have kids, don't you want them to grow up in a nice house?" He reached across the table and took my hand. "I promise I'll pay you back. Every penny. With interest." What would you do in my situation? Would you give your child everything, even if it left you with nothing? I gave him the money. All of it. We went to the bank together that very day. I watched my account balance drop to almost zero. Felt a cold fear settle in my stomach. But I told myself it was worth it. This was my son. He promised he would pay me back. He looked me in the eyes and promised. "There's just one thing, Mom," he said as we left the bank. "Miranda thinks it would be better if the house is in my name only. You know, for legal reasons, tax purposes. But I promise you'll always be welcome. It's your house too." I should have questioned that. I should have insisted on something in writing. But I trusted him. He was my son. I had given birth to him, raised him, sacrificed everything for him. Surely that counted for something. They bought the house. It was beautiful. 4 bedrooms, not 3. A large backyard. Granite countertops. Hardwood floors. I helped them move in, scrubbing floors and unpacking boxes, while Miranda directed from the couch, giving orders like I was hired help. "Make sure you don't scratch the floors with those boxes," she snapped at me. "And the kitchen needs to be organized properly. Put the expensive dishes on the top shelf where they're safe." My son said nothing, just looked uncomfortable and walked away. The months after they moved in were lonely. I went from a small apartment to an even smaller one to save money. My savings were gone, and I was living on my modest pension. I started taking in sewing work again, my old eyes straining over fabric in dim light. I called my son every week. Sometimes he answered, sometimes he didn't. When we did talk, he sounded distracted, distant. "I can't talk right now, Mom. Miranda and I are busy. Or can I call you back? We have dinner plans." The promised repayment never came. At first, he had excuses. "Things are tight right now, Mom. We had unexpected expenses with the house." Then the excuses stopped, and he just changed the subject whenever I brought it up. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up and comment what you would do in this situation. A year passed. Then 2. I saw my son maybe 3 times in those 2 years. Always brief visits, always with Miranda hovering nearby, checking her watch, making it clear my presence was an inconvenience. I tried to be patient. I told myself they were young, building their life, that they would remember me eventually. But the loneliness was crushing. The woman who had devoted her entire life to her son was now forgotten, discarded like an old piece of furniture that no longer matched the decor. Then came my birthday, my 62nd birthday. I waited all day for a call. Nothing. I checked my phone obsessively. Maybe he forgot. Maybe he was planning a surprise. By evening, I couldn't take it anymore. I called him. Miranda answered. "What do you want?" Her voice was cold, annoyed. I was hoping to speak to my son. "It's my birthday." I heard her laugh, a cruel sound. "Your birthday." "Hold on." I heard muffled conversation. Then she came back. "He says happy birthday. He's busy right now." She hung up. Just like that. I sat in my tiny apartment, staring at the phone, feeling tears stream down my face. My hands trembled with contained rage and heartbreak. The next day, I decided I needed to see him, to talk to him face to face, to remind him of who I was, what I had done for him. Surely he couldn't have changed so much. Surely my son was still in there somewhere. I took the bus to their house, my house, the house my money had bought. I stood at the door and rang the bell, my heart pounding. Miranda answered. She was wearing expensive loungewear, her hair perfectly styled even though it was mid-morning. When she saw me, her face twisted with displeasure. "What are you doing here?" "I came to see my son. I need to talk to him. He's at work, as you should know." She started to close the door. I put my hand against it. "Then I'll wait. Can I come in?" She looked at my hand like it was something dirty, something contaminating her perfect door. "No, you cannot come in. This is our home, and you weren't invited." But nothing. You need to learn boundaries. You can't just show up whenever you feel like it. We have lives, important lives. We don't have time for your neediness. The words hit me like physical blows. Neediness. As if wanting to see my own son, wanting acknowledgement on my birthday, was some kind of character flaw. "I gave you this house," I said quietly. "My money bought this house." Her eyes narrowed. "That was a gift." "A gift doesn't come with strings attached." "Or are you saying you want your money back?" "Because that's not how gifts work." He promised to pay me back. He looked me in the eyes and promised. Promises change. Circumstances change. We have expenses. The house needed renovations, furniture, landscaping. That money is long gone, invested in the property. Our property. She emphasized the word our. "I just want to see my son," I said, and I hated how my voice cracked, how weak I sounded. "He doesn't want to see you. Why do you think he never calls? Why do you think he's never here when you visit? He's embarrassed by you, by your poverty, your neediness, your constant demands. You're a burden. He's too kind to cut off completely. But believe me, we both wish you would just disappear." I felt the floor opening beneath my feet. My blood boiled with indignation, but I couldn't speak, couldn't move. "Now, get off my porch before I call the police and tell them a crazy old woman is harassing me." She slammed the door in my face. I stood there, trembling, tears streaming down my cheeks, my heart pounding so hard it hurt. Leave me in the comments. Have you been through something similar? I went home and cried for hours. The kind of crying that comes from deep in your soul, that shakes your whole body. I had given everything, everything, and this was what I got in return. Contempt, dismissal, cruelty. But the worst was yet to come. A week later, I tried again. I called my son from a different number, a friend's phone. He answered, not recognizing the number. "Hello, son? It's me. Please don't hang up. I just need 5 minutes, please." There was a long silence. Then, "Mom, you need to stop. You're making things difficult. Difficult. I'm your mother. I raised you. I gave you everything. And I appreciate that. But you need to move on. Build your own life. Stop depending on me for your happiness." "I'm not depending on you for my happiness. I just want a relationship with my son." "Is that so much to ask?" Another silence. Then, quietly, "Miranda says you're toxic, that you're manipulative, that you use guilt to control me." "What? That's not true. I have to go, Mom. We're done with this conversation. Don't call again." He hung up. My own son called me toxic, manipulative. I sat there in shock, the phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. Manipulative. The word echoed in my mind. I had given him everything, asked for nothing but love in return, and somehow I was the villain in this story. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my life had been a waste. What was the point of all those sacrifices if this was the result? Then came the worst day of my life. The day everything exploded. I decided to go to the house one more time. I know it was stupid. I know I should have left it alone. But I couldn't help myself. I needed to see him, to look him in the eyes, to make him remember who I was. I arrived in the afternoon. Both cars were in the driveway. I rang the bell, my hands shaking. My son opened the door. For a moment, just a moment, I saw surprise in his eyes, maybe even guilt. But then Miranda appeared behind him, and his expression hardened. "Mom, what are you doing here? I need to talk to you, please. Just 5 minutes." Miranda pushed past him, standing in the doorway like a guard dog. "She needs to leave, now." "Miranda, please," I said. "This is between me and my son. There is no you and your son anymore. There's us, and there's you. And you are not welcome here. Son, please. Tell her I'm your mother. Tell her I matter." My son looked at the ground, said nothing. My heart broke into 1,000 pieces, seeing him stand there, silent, letting this woman speak for him. "You know what?" Miranda said, her voice rising. "I'm tired of this. Tired of you showing up uninvited. Tired of your pathetic attempts to guilt-trip your way back into his life. You want to know the truth." "Miranda, don't," my son said weakly. "No, she needs to hear this. She needs to understand reality." She turned to me, her eyes cold and cruel. "You are nothing, a nobody. A poor old woman who thinks because she squeezed out a baby 60 years ago, she deserves endless gratitude and attention. Well, guess what? Your son is successful despite you, not because of you. He would have done just fine without your so-called sacrifices." I felt my face burning with shame. A lump tightened in my throat. "And that money you gave us? That wasn't a sacrifice. That was the least you could do after all the years he had to endure growing up poor, wearing second-hand clothes, being embarrassed by his pathetic mother who couldn't even afford to put food on the table properly." "That's enough," I whispered. But it wasn't enough for her. She was just getting started. "You want to come into our house? Fine. Come in. Let me show you what we've done with your money." She grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin, and pulled me inside. My son stood there, watching, doing nothing. She dragged me through the house, pointing out every expensive detail. "See this chandelier? $5,000. This couch? $8,000. The kitchen renovation? $35,000. Your pathetic little savings bought all of this. And you know what the best part is? It's all ours. Legally, officially ours. You have no claim to any of it. Subscribe and hit the bell icon for more stories like this." I pulled my arm away, tears streaming down my face. "Why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you? You exist. That's what you did. You're a constant reminder that my husband came from nothing, from poverty, from trash. And I can't have that. I'm building a perfect life, a perfect image, and you don't fit into it." I looked at my son, really looked at him. "Is this what you want? Is this who you've become?" He met my eyes for a moment, and I saw something there. Pain, guilt. But then Miranda grabbed his arm, and whatever I had seen disappeared. "Tell her," Miranda said. "Tell your mother what we discussed." My son's face hardened. "Mom, I think it's best if you don't contact us anymore. You're not welcome in our lives." The words hit me like bullets. My knees almost gave out. "You don't mean that." "I do. You need to accept that and move on. After everything I did for you," my voice was rising, desperation leaking through. "After everything I gave up, everything I sacrificed, that was your choice, not mine. I didn't ask to be born poor. I didn't ask for your sacrifices. You made those choices." Miranda smiled, triumphant. Finally, you grow a spine." Something in me snapped. All the pain, all the humiliation, all the rage I had been swallowing for years came boiling to the surface. "You ungrateful." That's when it happened. My son raised his hand and slapped me across the face, hard. The sound echoed through the marble foyer. I staggered back, my hand flying to my cheek, shock and pain exploding through me. "Don't you dare speak to my wife that way," he said, his voice cold. I stood there, trembling, tasting blood where my teeth had cut my lip. My own son had just hit me. The boy I had carried for 9 months, birthed in agony, nursed and raised and loved with every fiber of my being, had just struck me. Again, Miranda said. She's not afraid enough. Show her what happens when she disrespects us. And he did it. He slapped me again. And again. Each blow harder than the last. I lost count after 5, maybe 6. My ears were ringing, my vision blurring. I felt my face swelling, blood trickling from my nose. That's it, Miranda encouraged, laughing. Show your mother who's boss. Show her she means nothing. 15 times. He hit me 15 times while she watched and smiled. I fell to the floor after the 10th blow, and he kept going, slapping me where I lay, crying, begging him to stop. Please, I sobbed. Please, stop. You're my son, my baby boy. I'm not your baby, he spat. I'm a man, a successful man. And you're just a burden I'm finally free of. Finally, he stopped. I lay on the cold marble floor, my face on fire, my whole body shaking with sobs. I could barely see through my swollen eyes. Now get out, Miranda said. And if you ever come back, it will be worse. Much worse. We could say you attacked us, that we defended ourselves. Who do you think the police will believe? A successful couple or a crazy old woman? Somehow, I got to my feet. Somehow, I stumbled to the door and out into the street. I don't remember the bus ride home. I don't remember anything except the pain and the shock and the horrible realization that my son, my precious son, was gone. The person who had beaten me was a stranger wearing my son's face. When I got to my apartment, I looked in the mirror. My face was unrecognizable, swollen, bruised, bleeding. I looked like I had been in a terrible accident. In a way, I had been. The accident of loving someone who didn't love me back. I should have called the police right then, but I was so tired, so broken. I just lay on my bed and cried until I had no tears left. Give it a thumbs up if you think I did the right thing. The next morning, my neighbor found me. She was an elderly woman who lived alone, and we sometimes had coffee together. She knocked on my door, and when I didn't answer, she used the spare key I had given her for emergencies. She screamed when she saw me. My God, what happened? Who did this to you? I told her everything, every painful detail. She listened, her face growing harder with each word. You need to go to the hospital, she said. And then to the police. What's the point? Like Miranda said, who will they believe? They'll believe the truth. Come on, I'm taking you right now. At the hospital, they documented my injuries. Facial contusions, broken nose, cracked ribs from falling, severe bruising. The doctor looked at me with such pity, it made me want to cry all over again. Who did this to you? She asked gently. I couldn't say it, couldn't admit that my own son had beaten me. So I just shook my head and cried. But my neighbor had no such qualms. Her son did this? Her own son, in his house, while his wife watched and encouraged him? The doctor's face hardened. We need to report this to the police. No, I said quickly. Please, not yet. I need time to think. They respected my wishes, but strongly encouraged me to seek legal help. They gave me the names of lawyers who specialized in elder abuse. Elder abuse. The term made me sick. Is that what I was now? An abused elder? My neighbor took me home and stayed with me for the next few days. She made sure I ate, helped me ice my face, held me when I cried. She was more of a family to me than my own son had been in years. You need to fight back, she kept saying. You need to show him he can't do this to you. How? I asked hopelessly. I have nothing, no money, no power, nothing. You have the truth, and sometimes that's the most powerful weapon of all. Her words stuck with me. The truth. What was the truth in all of this? As I lay in bed, unable to sleep because of the pain, my mind kept working, kept thinking. And then I remembered something. Something from 2 years ago, when my son had first asked for the money. We had gone to the bank together, my bank, and the banker, a woman I had known for years, had asked me point blank, "Are you sure about this? This is your life savings. Do you want to transfer it directly to his account? Or would you like some protection?" I had been so trusting, so eager to help my son, that I hadn't even asked what she meant. "Just transfer it," I had said. He's my son. I trust him. But she had looked uncomfortable. At least let me set up a formal loan agreement. Something in writing. Just to protect you. My son had jumped in quickly. That's not necessary. This is between family. Right, Mom? And I had agreed, not wanting to seem like I didn't trust him. But what if the banker had done it anyway? What if she had been professional enough to protect a naive old woman from her own foolishness? Comment below what you would have done differently. The next morning, as soon as the bank opened, I was there. My face was still swollen and bruised, covered partially by large sunglasses, but I didn't care what people thought anymore. I need to speak to Mrs. Peterson, I told the receptionist. Tell her it's about the transfer from 2 years ago. Mrs. Peterson came out immediately. When she saw my face, even with the sunglasses, her expression changed to one of horror. Come to my office now. Once we were behind closed doors, she made me take off the sunglasses. When she saw the full extent of my injuries, she actually gasped. Who did this to you? My son, I said quietly. The one I gave all my money to. She closed her eyes briefly, and when she opened them, they were blazing with anger. I knew it. I knew something was wrong about that transaction. An old woman giving her entire life savings to her son with no protection. That's exactly the kind of situation we're trained to watch for. Did you do something? Did you set up any kind of agreement? She was quiet for a moment. Then she went to her computer and started typing. I'm not supposed to do this without explicit permission. It's actually against protocol. I could have been fired if anyone found out. But did you? My heart was pounding. I set up a formal loan agreement, not a gift. A loan, with specific terms for repayment, including interest. I forged your signature on the documents. Like I said, I could have been fired. But I've seen too many elderly clients cleaned out by their own families. I couldn't let it happen again if there was something I could do. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So legally, he owes me that money. Legally, he owes you $50,000 plus interest, which at 5% over 2 years comes to about $55,000. And here's the really important part. The loan agreement includes a clause. If payment isn't made within 2 years, which it hasn't been, the lender has the right to claim collateral. What collateral? She pulled up more documents. The house. The loan agreement specifically names the house as collateral. Your son signed these documents too. He might not have read them carefully, might have thought they were just standard bank forms, but he signed them. His signature is right here. I stared at the papers she was showing me, not quite believing what I was seeing. What does this mean? It means the house isn't really his. Not entirely. You have a legal claim to it. In fact, given that he's defaulted on the loan and the 2-year period has passed, you could theoretically force the sale of the house to recover your money. A cold fury settled over me. All this time, while they were treating me like garbage, humiliating me, calling me worthless, I had held the trump card and didn't even know it. What do I need to do? She leaned forward. You need a lawyer. A good one. Someone who specializes in estate and loan law. I can recommend someone, but I need to warn you, this is going to get ugly. Your son will fight this. He'll claim you gifted him the money, that these documents are fraudulent. Do I have a case? With your face looking like that? With documented evidence of elder abuse? With his signatures on legal loan documents? Yes, you have a case. A strong one. I left the bank with copies of all the documents and the name of a lawyer. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. I felt purpose. I felt power. Would you do the same in my place? The lawyer's office was impressive. Marble floors, expensive furniture, walls lined with law books and framed degrees. I felt out of place in my cheap clothes and bruised face, but the receptionist treated me with kindness. Mrs. Johnson will see you now, she said after a brief wait. Attorney Rebecca Johnson was a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. She took one look at my face and her expression hardened. Tell me everything, she said, and don't leave anything out. I told her the whole story, every painful detail. She listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, She leaned back in her chair. This is one of the worst cases of financial elder abuse I've seen. And combined with physical abuse, we have a very strong case. The loan documents are legitimate, properly filed with the bank, with his signatures verified. He can claim he didn't read them carefully, but that's not a legal defense. He signed them. He's bound by them. What can we do? Several things. First, we file a police report about the assault. That's non-negotiable. What he did is a crime. Second, we file a civil suit to recover the loan amount. Third, and this is the nuclear option, we can force the sale of the house to satisfy the debt. Force the sale? Can we really do that? Absolutely. The house is collateral on the loan. He's in default. We have every legal right to force its sale. In fact, given the circumstances, I'd recommend we go even further. We sue for emotional damages, for the cost of your medical care, for pain and suffering. By the time we're done, that house will be sold, and you'll get every penny you're owed and then some. I sat there, letting it all sink in. After years of being powerless, suddenly I held all the cards. How long will this take? If we push hard and fast, 2 to 3 months. Maybe less if he doesn't want a public trial. And trust me, he won't want a public trial. The evidence of what he did to you, combined with the financial abuse, he'll be crucified in court and in public opinion. Let's do it. All of it. She smiled. Let me make some calls. The next few days were a blur of activity. Police reports filed, medical records submitted, legal papers drawn up. Attorney Johnson worked fast, and she was ruthless. Within a week, my son received notification that he was being sued for assault, battery, elder abuse, and loan default. I wish I could have seen his face when he opened those papers. When he realized his mother wasn't just going to disappear quietly. When he understood that I had teeth and I was finally going to bite. His lawyer called Attorney Johnson within hours. She put the call on speaker so I could hear. My client maintains that the money was a gift, not a loan. These loan documents are fraudulent. Your client's signature is on the documents, verified by handwriting experts. Unless you're claiming he didn't sign them. A pause. No, but he claims he didn't understand what he was signing, that he was misled by bank personnel. That's not a defense, and you know it. Adults are responsible for reading documents before they sign them. Furthermore, we have medical documentation of severe physical abuse. Your client beat his elderly mother, a woman in her 60s, 15 times across the face, while his wife watched and encouraged him. How do you plan to defend that? Another longer pause. Perhaps we can work out some kind of settlement. My client is not interested in a settlement. She wants justice. Full repayment of the loan with interest, damages for assault, and she's considering pressing criminal charges. We're prepared to go to trial and make this very public. You don't want to do that. The publicity could be damaging to everyone involved. My client has nothing to hide and nothing to lose. Your client, on the other hand, has a reputation and a career to protect. I suggest you talk to him about the best way forward. The call ended. Attorney Johnson looked at me. He's scared. Good. He should be. 2 weeks later, I received a call from a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Mom, it was my son. His voice was different, shaky, afraid. I said nothing, just listened. Mom, we need to talk. This lawsuit, it's going to ruin me. My job, my reputation, everything. Can't we work something out? Work something out. I kept my voice cold. Like how you worked me over in your foyer. Like how your wife suggested you hit me harder. I'm sorry. I don't know what came over me. Miranda, she gets in my head. And I stop. Don't you dare blame your wife. You're a grown man. You made choices. You chose to hit your mother. You chose to steal from me. You chose to throw me away like trash. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. And now you're facing consequences, and you don't like it. Well, neither did I. Neither did I like being beaten. Neither did I like being called worthless and toxic. Neither did I like being told I had no claim to the house my money bought. Mom, please. The house. We'll lose the house. Where will we live? I don't care. You should have thought about that before you raised your hand to me. I'll pay you back, every penny. Just drop the lawsuit. You had 2 years to pay me back. You had a million chances to treat me with basic human respect. You chose otherwise. Now you live with the consequences. Mom, please. I'm begging you. Like I begged you to stop hitting me. Like I cried and pleaded while you rained blows on my face. That kind of begging? He was crying now. I could hear it in his voice. Part of me, a tiny part, wanted to comfort him. But the larger part, the part that was still bruised and healing, stayed strong. The lawsuit proceeds, I said. If you want to minimize the damage, I suggest you cooperate. Admit what you did. Make a public apology. Accept responsibility. Maybe then the judge will be lenient. I can't do that. My career would be over. Then, I guess you'll lose the house. Your choice. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt strong, powerful. For the first time in years, I was in control. Attorney Johnson called the next day. They want to settle. They're offering full repayment of the loan plus interest, medical expenses, and $20,000 in damages. In exchange, you drop the criminal charges and sign a non-disclosure agreement. What do you think? I think we could get more if we go to trial. But I also think this is a solid offer. You'd get your money back, your medical bills paid, some compensation for your suffering, and you'd be done with this quickly. No drawn-out trial, no more stress. What about the house? With this settlement, they could keep the house, though they'd be strapped paying you back. I thought about it. Did I want the house sold? Did I want to destroy them completely? Part of me did. Part of me wanted to watch it all burn. But another part of me, the part that was still a mother, Thetantar Novamentekenchert, that had loved that little boy once upon a time, just wanted to be free. I'll agree to the settlement on one condition, I said. No non-disclosure agreement. I want to be able to tell my story. I want people to know what happened. They won't like that. I don't care what they like. That's my condition. She called back an hour later. They agreed. No ND. They'll pay everything within 30 days. The house will have a lien placed on it until the debt is fully satisfied. If they miss a payment, you can force the sale. Then we have a deal. The paperwork was signed the following week. I didn't see my son or Miranda. It was all handled through lawyers. Within 30 days, I received a check for $75,000. My original, $50,000, plus interest, plus medical expenses, plus damages. I stood in the bank, holding that check, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not happiness, not yet, but peace. The knowledge that I had stood up for myself, that I had fought back, that I had won. I paid off all my debts. I moved to a better apartment. Nothing fancy, but clean and comfortable with good light. I bought myself new clothes, got my teeth fixed, treated myself to small luxuries I had denied myself for decades. I started volunteering at a senior center, teaching sewing classes. I made friends, real friends, not people who wanted something from me. Women my age who understood loss and betrayal and resilience. One of them asked me once, "Do you miss your son?" I thought about it carefully. I miss who I thought he was. I miss the boy I raised. But that person doesn't exist anymore, if he ever really did. The man he became. The man who beat me and stole from me. No, I don't miss him. 6 months after the settlement, I received a letter. Not from my son, but from Miranda. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. The letter was short. I hope you're happy. You destroyed our lives. We had to sell the house anyway, because we couldn't afford the payments after paying you. My husband lost his job because word got out about what happened. We're living in a small apartment now, struggling. All because you couldn't just let go and move on. You're a vindictive, bitter old woman, and I hope you rot alone. I read it once, then tore it into small pieces and threw it away. She still didn't understand. Still thought she was the victim. Still couldn't see that actions have consequences. But here's the thing I realized as I threw away that letter. I wasn't alone. I had friends. I had purpose. I had my dignity back. I had proven that I mattered, that I couldn't just be used and discarded. And them. They had each other, and apparently that wasn't enough. They had built their perfect life on a foundation of cruelty and theft, and it had crumbled. Not because of me, but because that's what happens to things built on lies. A year has passed now. My face healed, though I still have a small scar above my eyebrow. I look at it sometimes in the mirror, and instead of shame, I feel pride. It's a battle scar, proof that I survived, proof that I fought back. I haven't heard from my son since the settlement. No apology, no attempt at reconciliation, and honestly, I'm okay with that. Some bridges, once burned, should stay ash. Some relationships, once poisoned, can't be saved. I'm 63 now. I have friends who care about me. I have enough money to live comfortably. I have hobbies and purpose. I have peace. People ask me sometimes if I regret what I did, if I wish I had just let it go, maintained the relationship with my son at any cost. And my answer is always the same: no, 1,000 times no. Because what kind of relationship would that have been? One where I accepted abuse, where I let myself be beaten and robbed and degraded, where I taught my son that his mother was worthless, that he could treat people however he wanted without consequences. That wouldn't have been love. That would have been cowardice. Real love, the kind that matters, requires respect, requires basic human decency, requires recognizing that the other person has value, has dignity, has rights. My son didn't love me. Maybe he never did. Maybe I was always just a means to an end, a resource to be exploited. Or maybe Miranda changed him into something unrecognizable. Either way, the result is the same. I gave him life. I gave him everything I had. I gave him my money, my time, my heart. And when he threw it all back in my face with violence and contempt, I gave him one more thing. Some people say that mothers should love their children unconditionally, should forgive anything, should sacrifice everything. But I've learned that unconditional love doesn't mean accepting abuse. It doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. It doesn't mean staying in a relationship that's killing you from the inside out. I loved my son unconditionally for decades. I gave him everything unconditionally. And look where it got me. Beaten, broken, discarded. So I chose myself. One chose my dignity. I chose justice. And I'd make the same choice again in a heartbeat. The other day, I was teaching my sewing class at the senior center. One of the women, a quiet lady named Helen, stayed after everyone else had left. "Can I ask you something personal?" she said. "Of course. I heard what happened with your son. The whole story has kind of made the rounds here." She looked embarrassed. "Small community, you know?" I nodded. I had expected this. My daughter treats me terribly. Screams at me, calls me names, never visits, except when she wants money. Everyone tells me I should just accept it, that she's my daughter, that family is family. But after hearing your story, she paused, tears in her eyes. Did you ever doubt yourself? Did you ever think maybe you were wrong to fight back? I looked at this woman, probably in her 70s, still being abused by her own child, still questioning whether she had the right to defend herself. "Listen to me," I said, taking her hands. "You are not wrong. You are not being unreasonable. You are not being a bad mother. What you're experiencing is abuse, and you don't have to accept it. Not from anyone, not even from your own child. But she's my daughter, and you're her mother. A person, a human being with value and dignity. Being someone's mother doesn't mean you become a doormat. It doesn't mean you lose all rights to respect and decent treatment." She started crying. "I'm just so tired of feeling worthless." Then stop accepting treatment that makes you feel worthless. Set boundaries. Demand respect. And if she can't give it, if she refuses to treat you like a human being, then distance yourself. Your mental health, your physical safety, your peace of mind, they all matter. They matter just as much as her feelings. We talked for another hour. I told her about Attorney Johnson, about the resources available for elder abuse, about the importance of documentation and legal protection. I watched something change in her face, a spark of hope, of determination. A month later, she told me she had confronted her daughter, set firm boundaries, told her that the financial support would stop unless the daughter started showing basic respect. The daughter had raged, threatened, said terrible things, but Helen had stood firm. And eventually, surprisingly, the daughter had backed down, started being civil. It wasn't a perfect relationship, but it was better, healthier. You saved my life, Helen told me. If I hadn't heard your story, I never would have had the courage. And that's when I realized something. My pain, my suffering, my choice to fight back, it hadn't just been for me. It had been a message, a signal to all the other forgotten mothers, the used and abused parents, the elderly people treated like burdens by their own children. The message was simple. You matter. You have value. You have the right to defend yourself, and you are not alone. I started speaking at the senior center regularly, telling my story, not for sympathy, but to educate, to empower, to show people that they had options, that they didn't have to accept abuse just because it came from family. I helped 3 other people file elder abuse cases. I connected them with Attorney Johnson. I sat with them while they cried, while they doubted themselves, while they wondered if they were doing the right thing. And every single time, I told them what I wish someone had told me years ago. Your child's love should lift you up, not tear you down. And if it's tearing you down, then it's not love. It's something else. Something toxic. Something you don't have to accept. Today, I'm sitting in my apartment, sunlight streaming through the windows, a cup of coffee beside me, working on a quilt for a friend's granddaughter. My hands are old, and sometimes they ache, but they're steady, strong. My phone hasn't rung with my son's number in over a year. I don't expect it to. And I'm okay with that. Better than okay. I'm free. Free from the constant anxiety of waiting for his calls that never came. Free from the humiliation of begging for scraps of attention. Free from the crushing weight of unconditional giving to someone who gave nothing back. I think about him sometimes. Wonder if he ever thinks about me. Wonder if he ever looks at his own hands and remembers what he did with them. Wonder if he feels regret, or if he's convinced himself that I was the villain in our story. But those are just passing thoughts. They don't consume me anymore. They don't define me. What defines me now is this. I am a woman who survived, who fought back, who chose herself, who turned her pain into purpose. I am a woman who refused to be a victim. And if my son ever reads this, if he ever hears my story, I hope he understands. I didn't destroy his life. He did that himself. I simply refused to let him destroy mine. The house he lost it because he broke his promise, because he committed a crime, because he made choices that had consequences. Not because I was vindictive, because I was just. The job he lost it because word got out about what he did. Because people don't want to employ someone who beats elderly women. That's not my fault. That's his. The comfortable life he lost it because he built it on stolen money and cruelty. And foundations like that never hold. I didn't take anything from him that was rightfully his. I simply took back what was mine. My money, my dignity, my peace. And I'd do it again. Every single time. Because here's what I've learned in my 63 years on this earth. There are 2 types of people in the world. Those who take responsibility for their actions, and those who blame everyone else for the consequences of their choices. My son is the second type. He'll probably spend the rest of his life believing I wronged him, that I was cruel and vindictive, that I ruined his perfect life for no reason. But I know the truth. And so does everyone else who hears this story. The truth is simple. Actions have consequences. Cruelty has consequences. Abuse has consequences. And sometimes, those consequences come from the last person you'd expect. The person you thought was weak, powerless, defeated. Sometimes, the person you've beaten down rises up. And when they do, when they finally fight back with everything they have, you realize too late that they were never weak at all. They were just kind, patient, loving, until you gave them no choice but to be strong. So, to everyone out there who's being mistreated by their own children, who's being used and abused and discarded, you are not alone. You are not powerless. You have options. You have rights. You have value. Don't accept abuse just because it comes wrapped in the word family. Don't sacrifice yourself on the altar of unconditional love. Don't let anyone tell you that being a good parent means being a doormat. Stand up, fight back, choose yourself, because you matter. You have always mattered. And anyone who treats you like you don't, they're the ones who don't deserve space in your life, even if they're your own child. Especially if they're your own child. That's my story. That's my truth. And I'm not ashamed of any of it. I'm proud. Proud that I survived. Proud that I fought back. Proud that I chose myself. And if that makes me a bad mother in some people's eyes, I can live with that. Because I'm living, really living, for the first time in years, free, strong, whole.